When it comes to talking about and discussing video game villains, a few names always rise to the top of the cultural consciousness. Bowser, Ganondorf, Sephiroth, and of course, KingKRool. Rare's iconic creation is not just another archetypal antagonist, he's a testament to how creativity, humor, and design cohesion can elevate a character from a simple enemy to a lasting icon in gaming history. I want to delve into the origins of KingKRool, how Rare developed this character, his impact on the gaming landscape, and why he remains one of the most beloved villains in all of gaming. When Rare began development on Donkey Kong Country in the early 90s, the task was monumental to say the very least. Nintendo had entrusted Rare with revitalizing the dormant Donkey Kong franchise, and the stakes were high, very high. The team knew that they needed a compelling antagonist to anchor the narrative and provide a satisfying foil to Donkey Kong and Rare's other creation, Diddy Kong. At the time, and still to this day, platformers often feature straightforward villains. Bowser was a very imposing brute, Robotnik was a mad scientist, and most antagonists followed very predictable tropes. Rare wanted KRool to stand out. They envisioned a character who could embody both humor and menace, giving players a memorable enemy to rally against. KingKRool's design began as a parody of monarchy and villain stereotypes. His exaggerated crown, his cape, and bulging bloodshot eyes were meant to be both absurd and intimidating. According to Greg Mayles, a key designer on the Donkey Kong Country series, KRool's name is obviously a play on Krool, emphasizing his role as a comically evil yet genuinely threatening figure. The K in his name fit the Kremlin theme perfectly and tied him into the reptilian army that he commanded. The team also leaned into slapstick humor, making KRool clumsy and ridiculous while maintaining a dangerous edge. This balance between comedy and menace would become a defining trait of the character and set him apart from other villains of this era. KingKRool's appearance was deliberately over the top. His gold-plated belly suggested a love for excess, fitting for a tyrannical leader. His asymmetrical eyes added an unhinged, crazy, and unpredictable quality that made him visually distinct from other villains. The design team wanted KRool to look like he could both command an army and trip over his own feet, a visual cue that encapsulated his blend of power and comedy. Rare also designed KRool to be physically expressive. His animations and boss fights are exaggerated, showcasing his personality in every movement. Whether he was stomping in rage, laughing maniacally, or feigning defeat, his actions told players everything they needed to know about his character. What truly made KingKRool stand out was his personality. Rare imbued him with a mix of theatricality and absurdity. He wasn't just evil for evil's sake, he was hilariously incompetent, constantly failing despite his elaborate schemes. This made him relatable in a way. Players could laugh at his antics while still respecting him as a very formidable foe. Rare leaned into his duality with KRool's ever-changing personas. In Donkey Kong Country 2, he became Captain KRool, a pirate even complete with a blunderbuss. And in Donkey Kong Country 3, he transformed into Baron K. Rulenstein, a mad scientist. Each new identity allowed Rare to experiment with different facets of his personality, keeping him fresh and unpredictable. KRool's boss fights were highlights of the Donkey Kong Country franchise, showcasing Rare's creativity, and each encounter was unique, combining humor with genuinely challenging gameplay. For example, in Donkey Kong Country, the final battle begins with KRool feigning defeat after being, quote, knocked out, only to spring back to life for a second phase. This subversion of expectations was a very clever twist that I still remember very fondly to this day. In Diddy's Conquest, Captain KRool's blunderbuss introduced a range of attack patterns, forcing players to adapt quickly. The fight was challenging, but it was also fair. With KRool's antics keeping the tension lighthearted, Rare's ability to make these battles both mechanically engaging and narratively entertaining was a key factor in KRool's success as a villain. Rare's British sense of humor was a cornerstone of KingKRool's character. His absurdity contrasted sharply with the dark, atmospheric tone of the Donkey Kong Country games. This juxtaposition made him memorable, as players never quite knew what to expect with each subsequent game. It didn't matter if he was running away in terror or plotting his next ridiculous scheme, KRool's antics were always entertaining and always fun to watch. And yet, beneath the humor was a character with actual depth. Rare gave KRool motivations that went beyond simple villainy. He wasn't just stealing bananas for the sake of it. He was a tyrant with an army to feed and a need to prove his dominance. This added a layer of complexity to his actions, making him more than just a one-dimensional bad guy. Over the years, KingKRool's popularity has only grown, thanks in part to his larger-than-life personality and memorable boss fights. Fans began to see him as more than just a Donkey Kong Country villain. He became a gaming villain and a symbol of Rare's creativity and the golden age of platformers. This fan adoration culminated in his inclusion in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate back in 2018. After years of fan petitions and speculation, KRool's addition to the roster was a celebration of his enduring legacy. His moveset paid homage to his various personas, incorporating the blunderbuss, crown toss, and belly flop. The reveal trailer even referenced his feigned defeat from Donkey Kong Country, a nod to longtime fans. KingKRool's influence can be seen in other gaming villains who blend humor with villainy. Characters like Handsome Jack from Borderlands, or especially Dr. Nefarious from the Ratchet & Clank franchise, owe a debt to KRool's archetype. His ability and Rare's ability to balance comedy and intimidation set a new standard for what video game antagonists could and should be. Rare's creation of KingKRool was a masterclass and a blueprint in character design and in storytelling. By combining humor, combining creativity, and genuine challenge, they crafted a villain who continues to captivate players to this day, decades after his original debut in the original Donkey Kong Country back in 1994. KRool is a character that is just as ridiculous as he is threatening, and just as endearing as he is hateful. And a character that has truly mastered the art of villainy.